market. Oh, no, you can drive to wherever you got to go. Yeah. But they will reimburse my driver. That they will. But no meal. Bottle of coffee? You can make
Okay, guys. So let's go ahead and we'll start up again. So we're continuing our workshop here. So we're sort of jumping back in. We just finished our Doring task matching, and so we're going to get into planning and doing a little practice together. And the idea is that we'll choose some different things that we'll work on, and we'll plan those together, and then we'll have a chance to share those out at the end, and try to put some of these into action, some of these ideas into action. So there'll be two groups. One will be an ESL, and that's going to be it's a listening, and then the other one is Then there's a for the sort of industry academic. I have two. So the industry one is about green cleaning. And you don't need to know anything about this. You're just going to plan a lesson based on, in this case, the video. This one has a video. And then this one, the academic, is about anger management. And this one is a PowerPoint. So you might just think a little bit about which one you'd like to work on. And of course, with your guys, they'll naturally separate because you'll have ESL teachers or you'll have industry academic people. Okay, so, this is an audio recording, but I have the transcript, so you could see that. Okay. In this one, there's a course book. So it's audio, and then there's a course book. And a big thing with this one is that it's about adapting. Because a lot of times you'll see a course book and it might even have some like sort of pre, during, post activities, but it might be missing some stuff. If you look at page 23, so this is the pre, during, post guide for ESL. And generally speaking with ESL, there's going to be at least two listenings. The first listening is what you would call like a global or more gist listening to try to get the main idea. And then the second listening is more detailed listening. So you can see here you've got the big pre, and then you've got pre number one, during number one, post number one for the gist listening or global listening. And then you have pre number two, during number two, post number two for the second listening, the more detailed listening, and then a big post. So it's very similar to what we've already done, but the main difference being that you're going to have two listenings on this. And so in this one, we'll have just that same sort of thing, where you'll see in the materials that there's multiple listenings, and you have to be able to identify what's going on. So I'd like to have kind of equal numbers, and we'll do all three. Does that sound okay? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Hey, wow, okay. So can I have people who want to do the ESL over here, and then people who want to do green cleaning here, and then anger management here? And if you don't have any preference, she's like, I'm staying.
Am I the only green guy? Passive aggression be a topic in anger management too? What? Will passive aggression be a topic in anger management?
I think so. Yeah. And I also want to stay in my school.
Come on, Michael. That's a true motivation. It's all being recorded, by the way.
Yeah, this is all recorded.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good, people. Yeah. We have a special video that we're producing. It's called Observers Gone Wild. It's going to be a hit series on cable TV. All right. Okay. So for the PDP, for the ESL people, you guys are going to be on, and everybody can look for a moment right now just to see, just to orient it. So page 28 and 29. So you'll see here it says part 1, look at the following extract from a course book. What's the topic, text, and the listening tasks? So let's just have everybody do this just for a minute. So you won't do that when you're actually doing the workshop. You would split them out. But let's just have everybody do this just for a moment, since you all work with ESL. So have a look at that material for just a second. And what's the topic, text, and listening tasks? See if you can just identify those. Okay, so topic. What's that? Yeah, so news is sort of the topic. Yeah, and the text is, how would you describe it?
It's listening. It's a radio broadcast of the news.
Right, and how many stories?
4.
4 stories. Yeah, and it's over on the other side. Okay, and then what's the gist listening task?
Put the headlines in order.
Yeah, right. So listen, and I think match the listening to or the headline to the listening, and that would be, what's that, 1B? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the detailed listening? Yeah, exactly. Right. And one thing that's interesting to notice about that, it's kind of clever the way they do it. There's like a previewing. So you start that task, they preview the task by starting it, and you make your guesses, what do you know, and then you listen again to see if you got the right answer or to see what you missed. Okay, and so for the ESL people, you guys, right? Okay, so what I want you guys to do is kind of keep page 23 and keep open page 23 and 28. So what you might want to do is actually, if you want to work in partners for a minute, is one person be up on page 23 and the other have it open on page 28.
Okay.
And then what I would suggest that you do is either work individually or talk about what may be missing there. Okay? So, they don't say that there's a pair work check. So that's kind of missing, right? I would add that if I was going to do this as a listening. It doesn't mean that the textbook is bad or something. It's just like they didn't put it in there because that's not the way they write the textbook. Okay? So kind of look, what do you think might be missing? But notice in part 3, it says, we have this other acronym, CRACK. CRACK's good. You can keep, remove, add, or change. So what would you do there? What would you keep from this lesson? What would you, sort of kick out? What might you add? What might you change? So, and then ultimately, you guys are going to plan out a PDP, which is on page 30. Okay? So you guys will plan one together, and you guys will plan one together. Okay? My suggestion would be that first you take a few minutes and just make notes about what's missing individually. And then you can start talking together. So give yourself a few minutes and analyze the lesson, kind of just without, And then where's my anger management people? There you are. God, you guys look happy. Okay. This is the PowerPoint. So you guys are going to look at the PowerPoint, read through it, and then figure out what you might do. You have, I think you're on the right page there. You should be on page 31. Think about chunking this thing. And then for my green cleaners, can you guys, let's go to the back table. You can just drag some, slide your chairs over here. So I've got the video here. Okay. So what I would, right, yeah. Is that hindering your learning or helping your learning?
Hindering.
Okay. So let's see here. So you may want to watch it more than once. My suggestion would be watch it the first time and just get a feel for it, and then you may want to actually take a few notes, watch it a second time to get some notes, because that's going to help you think about how you're going to organize your PDP. Okay? So it's 3 minutes long.
Hi, I'm Martin, and I'll be your guide for this video series about green cleaning. You may have heard about green cleaning before, and may even have some experience with it. But what exactly is green cleaning? Green cleaning uses environmentally preferred products with ingredients that are less toxic to your health. In this series, you'll learn how green cleaning practices and products are not only better for the environment, but more importantly, safer for you and the health of your customers. As custodians, you have a vital job that contributes to the health of the public. Many traditional cleaning products that you may be using contain harmful chemicals that can cause headaches, asthma, respiratory irritation, and even cancer. In fact, custodians have some of the highest rates of asthma. My goal is to show you how to make your workplace safer, protect your health, and clean effectively while using safer green products and practices in your everyday routine. You might even save some money. Before we move on, here are some simple tips about using green products. Green cleaners work just as effectively as traditional cleaners. However, for tougher stains, the product should sit on a surface for at least 2 minutes to work effectively. So you can apply it, do something else, then come back and wipe it off. Many green cleaning products that are free of color and fragrance don't fizz or bubble when applied. Don't let that fool you. They're working just as hard. Remember, many added fragrances can lead to throat irritation as well as respiratory harm. So it's important to choose products that are color and fragrance free. Some green products work best with cold water, so it's important to read product labels and follow directions carefully. Many cleaning products create tremendous amounts of waste. Switching to concentrates and closed-loop dispensers reduces waste and water usage, lowers your exposure to chemicals, reduces the chance you may inaccurately mix chemicals, and even prevents accidents. Although green cleaning products are safer than traditional products, it's still important to wear personal protective equipment such as rubber gloves, long sleeves, dust masks, closed-toed rubber-soled shoes, and eye goggles. For more green cleaning training tools and for more details about safer products to use, please visit our website at SFM.
Okay, so that's what are some of the main topics they talk about?
One is green cleaning.
Yeah.
PPE is part of it.
What's that?
Using PPE.
PPE.
How to use green products in your cleaning routine.
Right. Right. They kind of do a little comparing.
Yeah.
You know, it may not fizz, but right.
There's no bubbles.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's working. Yeah.
a little bit of
So
what they're made of.
what I'd suggest then is you start to think a little bit. So we're on this the page. Yeah. So I have some questions here. So are you going to do the whole test or break it up into sections? Like this one, like the anger management, you probably would want to break it up. It's long. It's really long. But with this one, you could probably just do 3 minutes, or you could pause it a couple places, right? He talks really fast. There's a lot of information, actually, because I think he's just reading a script, you know. So, and then what possible tasks should you have them do while they listen and watch? Pre, post. You might want to watch one more time, so I'll leave it here, you know, so that you could, if you're kind of getting into the details. Yeah. So, sound good? Okay. And you two work together, and you two work together. And, of course, you can compare notes or whatever you want. But maybe in another
lesson.
What's that? Yeah. So then you've got over here, PDP. And refer, you guys are going to be, this is not for ESL, so there will be just one listening probably. You could do two, but you would want to be referring to the main PDP framework. So establishing context, activate prior knowledge. Sound good? Okay. Hey guys, can I just check in with you really quick? So, did you have a chance to skim through? Yeah. So, what were some of the main topics that you found?
They were talking. There's a ton of presentation about what happens when someone's angry.
Right.
And they also followed with ways to manage that anger. So yeah, there are a lot of helpful ways and what to do as you kind of go through the process.
Right.
Of
And
anger.
there's also that whole anger cycle too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the different parts of it. Yeah. The myths about anger. Yeah. So one of the things that I would see, like if I was going to be teaching this, and again, this is not for ESL, so we would just be doing probably one listening. And what will typically happen is that, you know, an instructor will just go through the whole thing. And the whole thing is a big dering. So I would probably be inclined to break it into chunks and do like a pre-dering for this part, chunk 1, and then a post, and then a pre for chunk 2. Yeah, and so that would be the way I would suggest that you guys plan. You've got, and then you've got this listed here. So you guys will also be referring to the main.
For academic and
Yeah, exactly. This main one for academic. I think it's on page. All right.
32.
Is that what we're about?
17.
No, 17. Yeah, so this is the one you guys are referring to.
Okay.
So you don't need multiple listenings, right?
It'll just be for the different portions where we're introducing new material.
Right, so you would do-
pre, during, and post for
Right.
each section of new material.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you might want to just keep a pen so you can flip back and forth.
Seems like some of this, the PowerPoint, like instead of the presenter just presenting the whole time and having it during, it seems like there's a lot of good spots for them to really break it up and have interactions with people.
Absolutely. So you could think of the during as like a participatory lecture. But, you know, ultimately a lecture is a lecture. You know, whether you're eliciting a little bit, you know, the idea is
I'm
that...
thinking about like the kind of visceral things that they want people to like pay attention to within their bodies and stuff like that, or like those could be actual like things that people practice in terms
Okay.
of breathing and
Absolutely.
techniques and stuff.
Right. And so where would that fit in the PDP?
I guess post maybe.
Yeah. So you could add that as the optional practice. Yeah. And I would say that for today's purposes, you could totally mention that, but don't get into detail about how you exactly. I want you to focus on the PDP.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could just say practice, with your partner somehow.
So you can have like a sample of it in the actual lecture, but the actual practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I really want you to focus on the steps and outlining it.
So what's the letter main themes to chunk it, and then we'll start doing the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it's up to you. If you guys want to work all together, that's fine. Or you could say, after you've done the chunks, you might say, yeah, or you could say, you and I will work on chunk 1, and you two work on chunk 2, and chunk 3 we'll worry about another time. Sure. Okay? Sorry, can I just check in with you guys? Yeah. So, what did you notice was missing? The big free. Yeah. The grand free is missing. Exactly. And anything else that's missing? Okay, so it's good to do an analysis too, like just of the whole thing before you get into the planning too.
So, I mean, there's no pre for any part of it. Like the first time you listen, there's no pre-task for this.
Well, I think 1A, it says that you're supposed to, and which is like most interesting. So that's the pre to that's pre-1. So they've got pre-1 and they've got during 1. And then post 1, they don't really have like a parallel check, but they do, and they don't have a big pre. So like, if you think about like establishing context and getting them talking in a freer way, do you have any ideas about what you might talk about? For the big three? No, the big three.
The first one.
Yeah.
How do you get to
Yeah, what kind of news do you like? So, you might show a couple of newspapers or something to establish context, and then have a few questions, and then boom, you're off and running. And then get into this. Okay. Yeah, good. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, do you see 3 ABC?
Yes.
So what do you think, where does that fit in terms of our, whatever it is, page?
Because it might actually quite literally and make them much.
Yeah, what is that?
But I think what it is, this came up last year with study habits of learning.
It really is, yeah. So it's much more language focused. It's all about like stress, being able to speak with appropriate listen for stress. They've got transcript now. They're marking the stress. So it's really no longer comprehension. It's shifting. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. You could totally do that. But they're missing a big post. They really haven't done any, like, they haven't done like a really like big thing about the articles or. I think there's a little something. Is there something there?
It just
You
says
can
listen
often
again.
understand, it gives a brief
Yeah.
intro. You can often understand the general idea by listening to the stress words.
Right. Listen again and check. But they don't ever talk about these stories.
Right, because they go back and they say, what compares, how is the information in 2A connected to the headlines? So that's going back to...
That's listen, yeah.
Right, but then, like work in pairs and see how.
Right.
Like, what did you get? What did you find interesting? Any questions?
Exactly. And a teacher that's just following this kind of word by word or blow by blow, they would just be like, okay, you got the right answers? Okay, let's move on.
Right.
And there's no opportunity to talk about the news stories. And the news stories, have you read them? Read the news stories. They're quite interesting. So you might want to think a little bit about a post activity that you would do.
Okay.
Because they're just like, okay, that's it.
So
and
it's just these 4 paragraphs here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are 4 news stories, and that's so yeah, read those and then start to think a little bit about what you might do for a big post. Those are the big ones. Think about.
person or something, so it's kind of showing that then anger is just like a fundamental part of our DNA, you know, it's just like something that we use for survival, not all these details that we
How you guys doing? You guys good?
Yeah, very good.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
great. You guys doing okay? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yes. Good. Okay. Good.
I'm just thinking like.
And then where would that be exactly?
I like beginning with a picture to kind of get them thinking about anger as a more complex thing than a good or bad thing.
And this, I think a series of pictures, because maybe you can like our guy has series of like
Yeah.
what is it? I'm pretty open-minded. I don't have any.
Do you want, we can start in the beginning.
You want to start in the beginning, and we'll take the.
So we'll do
take
what is.
So it looks like AAA is a 4.
What's AAA?
As that final solution, kind of. Yeah. All right. It's a more
There's
detailed.
just so much content on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll take to where, you know, anger, and then you guys can start with dealing with anger.
Yeah.
That seems
Well,
like seems like a big turning point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm. What's the AAA? I didn't see that yet.
It's at the very end.
We kind of didn't get that
What
far.
does it say?
Sorry,
It's a management tactic.
Oh, man.
It's yeah. It's a few slides about it.
So are we doing the whole thing or just the
I'm asking that question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think we should leave AAA out of it.
So like, okay, so what comes to my mind is the term green cleaning, and then people probably have their guesses and things like that, but maybe setting the context could be like a little bit more specific to what they're about to hear, so more like what are some things that like why is green cleaning a good thing, maybe could be like a setting.
Do you think that that might, for establishing context, that might be starting out a little too much? To me, it seems like with context, it's like, so where and what are you going to be, what are you going to be learning, or what and where are you going to use this information? So that, you know, you might want to have them think about. And establishing context tends to be more of a whole class thing, right? So today we're going to talk about green cleaning. We're going to have an introduction to green cleaning. You may have heard of it. Where have you heard of this term? Like where are the things that you experienced with green cleaning? So they can begin to identify, well, where I work, you know, my kid's school, or I do it at home. So a little bit of a whole class discussion about where they've heard the term, and then so what do you know about it? Moving into the activating prior knowledge, right? Isn't context? It's the what, where, when.
Yeah.
Rather than just starting out with why, is it important?
Right, I think
Kind of beginning to help them frame where they've heard of it before.
Yeah.
Isn't the order different?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean, I already wrote up here, so I was just going to draw an arrow.
Here we go. How can I help students actively think and talk about when, where, why this topic happens?
just go around, or there's 4 main points, and then they use the graphic organizer on the first listen to try to figure out what they are.
So maybe when they
So that thought crossed my mind.
Okay, sorry, so explain that to me one more time. So they get the
So you give them a piece of paper with 4 circles on it. You say, in this video there's going to be 4 main points. This is almost teaching them more how to watch a video and summarize it, right?
Well, the idea is that we want them to identify the key points of the video with the graphic organizer. So maybe...
So if we gave them that, let's say we did go that route, there's 4 circles, and we tell them, as you're listening, try to fill in what you think are the main categories, themes of this video.
Yeah.
And then they write it in. They do that by themselves. They then talk to a partner, do you have the same kind of similar? And then it's whole class. And then as a whole class, I think you put it on, you actually do the organizer as a class, and everyone at that point should sort of have come to
They
an
fill
agreement.
out organizers.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that idea.
So the only thing about that that's maybe skewed is that it's more about how to listen or how to watch a video, right? Than the information. Like we're actually talking about the information, not how to get the main
This is
points of
the
the
ESL
video.
teacher in me. I know. This is why I wanted to work in this one. Okay. So then let's go to step 3. Focus on the objectives.
Once the objectives are sort of identified or framed, so close to
So then here's where we say we're going to watch a video.
Yeah.
And in this video we are going to...
That's whole class.
That's the whole class.
Yep. That's what you do.
Oh, so if I
Yeah.
do a pair work, I still have to do
The whole class. Yeah, you're going to do the pair work so that they check with one another. So we're checking, I thought that this one went first and this one, I don't know if they're doing the order, but this one went first, this one went second. We ask each other about that, and then we turn, then the teacher, okay, so what was the order of the headlines? And that's where everybody gets involved, right?
Pair work, then whole class.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
And that would take 5 minutes at the most.
Yeah,
It's really,
exactly.
really quick.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the pre-2, which is maybe read all the sentences. Can you put them in order now, or maybe guess at the order? Which ones go with which headlines? Talk to your partner. I mean, they could do this by themselves as a pre-task, or you could be like, okay, talk to your partner. What do you remember about these stories?
Yeah.
Okay, so you said, so probably pair work. So it seems to me the way that this model works for the pre, it sounds expected that it's a pair work, so you can have a chance to be discussing.
Yeah, because what you're doing in the pre is you're setting up the lesson. That's what pre is, right? You're setting up the lesson.
So it's pre for the post.
So in order to get what you want to do is get the students engaged. You just don't want to start talking at them because you're not going to have all of them involved. So when you do pre and you do pair work, you have everybody talking to each other about whatever the lesson is going to be before you even let them know, okay, the lesson is not what we're going to focus on, and where we want to go with this is there you've already got some buy-in because they've already talked about it. So that's what the pre is about.
Okay.
And
What
review is a class? Is that necessary, do you think? Review is a class? Whole class review after they match?
Yeah. So again, pair work, whole class. Do you have the same thing as your partner? Okay, what are the answers?
Anything you didn't understand, that's really what the whole class is about, right? Because if you have somebody that was like, I kind of got lost in this, I'm not really clear, the whole class will allow them to the teacher to clarify any confusion that exists.
Post 1, pre-1. What's during activity? It's becoming, it's good that you guys are here. It's becoming clearer. During
yeah. Well, this is a good reference too.
Yeah. And then the big post was now go back, right? And talk about what you learned from the articles and the headlines, right?
So you could, like, with pair work, it could be something like, okay, close your book. Your partner is going to tell you your partner is going to choose one of the headlines. You have to summarize what you heard, and then maybe, like, as a little bit more critical thinking, say, okay, does the headline match
what you read? Yeah. Did it give you a good indication of what was going to be in the article?
Okay, so big post, we have pre, too. I'm getting the hang of it. What is the pre? What is the pre for the big post?
or practice? Actually, I would just do
What is the
practice.
What did
No, this is the big post. There's no pre there. This is the post. So it's pre, during, post.
Okay, so
right. So you had a big pre, right? Where
yes.
you did the looking at the articles. Can you guess what they're going to be about? Then you had this one. That's where you had your pre, your during, and your post for that. Then you had 2. You had your pre, your during, and your post for that. And now the big post is go back and pair work, and your one partner is going to give you a headline, and you're going to talk to what that headline was about, which article, what was included, what article was included with the headline, and then the next thing after that is, was the headline a good indicator of that story? That's the pair work. And then the whole class, they'll come back together and they will share.
Probably, discuss the good headline.
Yeah.
So there would be a pre too. It was like pre.
That's once you post, you're just wrapping up what the lesson was about.
And what about the stress, lesson stress, sentence stress?
Well, this is a.
It's a whole other practice.
It's that practice optional.
Because our aim, our goal, our intention for this is comprehension and finding and understanding details. So main
it's
idea
like
and detail skill. So,
right.
So this is tied to it, but it's a whole other lesson that we would do a whole
that's like if you had a
outline.
really, you had a class that grasped this really easily, and had a lot of comparison, contrast, and then you could then go into language because they're like ready to move
but
on.
then I think you also need to go back to that pre-stage. Okay,
You would.
Listen to what are these sentences. Where do you hear the stress?
You would.
So as long as you have a full video, at least one section.
Because you're
What is
switching
stress?
gears. You're switching gears for comprehension.
That's right. And it has to be identified. Right, you have to let them know, okay, we're switching gears, right? So.
Okay, so the whole goals, that's part of that's the whole class check afterwards. So we set
This stuff is easier said than done. As we work through it, I start to feel a lot more compassion for the instructors, seriously, because it's like, think about the pre, and what steps are you going to take to set up this lesson, and then so now you're doing the lesson, right? And then how are you practicing summarizing that lesson? And for a lot of teachers, summarizing simply means, okay, so we did A, B, and C. Got it? Good.
Check. Next.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking too, what would be a good extension lesson from this? Okay, we've done all this. All right, maybe if we don't, keep it focused on this and not go into pronunciation, but like a next step maybe, or to extend the activity to.
Yeah, I think that's
Maybe like an interview with Dr. Baxter. Well, what would you ask her? What would you want to know about Dr. Baxter?
Now, based on the article,
Yeah.
based on what you're seeing here, like what would you want to ask her?
Right.
Right.
And what would you say?
Yeah.
Right.
And what would she say?
Yeah.
Guys, do you think 5 more minutes would work for you?
Yeah, we're good, actually.
You finished?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
solid.
Yeah,
okay.
we're good.
So then my suggestion would be to just double check that you got, like, take your lesson and then double check, make sure you have all the steps. See, oh, wait a minute, did we forget like a established context, or did we forget like some, little bit? And then if you're good, and we're going to take about 5 more minutes for this group to finish. If you're good, you could, if you want, you can look at the anger management one. I have an extra anger management. Guys, do you think 5 more minutes would be good for you?
2 minutes.
To be able to finish through the PDP? Maybe just getting the rough
We've
steps.
had hits and things for this.
Okay.
Highs and lows.
Okay.
Maybe.
Is there anything I can do to help with you?
When it came up with
So
the idea
they would have questions, a chance to talk about them.
to start out the preview would be like, what questions do you have about green cleaning products? So they would write this on the board, and then we're going to show them the video, and we're trying to figure out the end goal is that they have to do a commercial for green cleaning products.
In 5 sentences.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So they have to say what's good about them.
So one thing to consider is that it's cool to have them brainstorm the questions, but one thing is that like ultimately you want them to get the goal is to get the information from the video.
So that's why then I think we go back to our idea about the graphic organizer.
I think that's probably yeah. So you can get a little bit attached to like, oh, this would be so cool, like this activity, and it would, like the commercial would be cool, but that's not going to really focus them on understanding the text.
Okay.
And so a graphic organizer probably would be better for that. Or questions. You could give them questions that are then answered in the text.
So give them questions.
You could do both. You could say, what are some questions you want to listen for? What are you interested in? And then that could be part of your pre. And then you'd say, here are the questions that are going to be answered in the video.
Okay.
And now listen and get the answers.
Okay. So, and that's what we're already doing. They're already listing the questions that they have.
See, but they might have a question that's not answered in the video. That's my point.
So you think we'll get rid of our preview task?
I don't think it's previewing. I think that's more of a pre. When they're thinking of their own questions, it's more of a pre.
Well, we've already come up with, so, okay, step 1 is that they're listing their experience with cleaning products, and then they're sharing them with their partner. Then to activate prior knowledge, we're listing out what green cleaning products are and what they're not on the T chart. Because he spends a lot of time explaining what they're not.
So you're teaching it before they listen. You see? Because that's one of the things that he says.
It's going to leave them less thirsty. It is until they're thirsty first.
Yeah. Think it out a little bit. Yeah.
So we need 5 minutes.
Jeff. Okay. How about you guys? Are you 5 minutes be okay?
Oh, yes, we're about to write our 3rd version of this lesson.
This is that compliment. So this is my action plan to avoid competition in my class.
Just like turn Tom's.
Just turn Tom. I put a muzzle on Tom.
Just one of those like, how do you call it? Like the
James and I aren't competitive with each other, are we?
James just ignoring you.
This is all recorded, by the way.
Oh. Yeah, but we're pretty much
okay, good.
Yeah.
Did you have what was your main task that you were going to have them do?
we were thinking of giving them already giving them the steps or the tips, and then what they would have to do is like first they would predict what like the advantages of these tips, and then when they listen to it, they take notes on the advantages.
And
And
that's
then,
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're focusing on the tips more than anything else.
Okay.
5 tips.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
And then without a post discussion, like the whole class discussion, might be good to talk about them, and then think, are there any disadvantages to any of them that you can consider?
No, we were talking about what would happen if they don't follow these steps.
Oh, that's nice.
Remember, not so much the disadvantage, but like what would happen if they don't.
What might happen,
Yeah. And I think another thing too is like, what are other things that you do? What are other like tips that you have for cleaning certain things?
Right, that's a good one too.
Yeah, because some of them will have a little bit of experience with that already.
And it could be green cleaning or other cleaning.
Right.
You know, but like, how do you get that ring out of the toilet? You know, like. Oh yeah, that's good. Because I think there's a lot, like students can benefit a lot from that sort of peer teaching. You know, like.
And sharing of things they already know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to plan it with Tom because one of the things that I don't know so much about what they already know. Like, who are these students?
Right.
So we talked a little bit about that at first because I'm like, what can I assume that they know already?
Right.
Like, who are these people coming in?
Yeah. Right. So my just thinking about our students, they come with a little bit of an awareness of green cleaning, either having heard the term or even having some of the things that they're using at work. So there would be some awareness of it, so we want to kind of flesh that out.
Right. But I think one of the things we saw in the PDP, in the hometown thing, if you give them a visual, like everybody knows the word green. You know what I mean? Like, and if you showed just a couple pictures of green cleaning products, what do you think what guesses can you make about these? Everybody could make some. You know what I mean? There's nobody blank.
Right.
Yeah. Even in ELL, everybody's heard the word green, green product, be green or.
Yeah, be green.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Good. Right. So a couple more minutes.
What if the answers to
well, yeah, I mean, but then one proceeds with and you can even add that to
the lecture, and then at the end, based upon what students have heard over the course of the entire lecture, when they go back to their answers, and then can you now figure out based upon
say a headline, say a headline.
Before they get to do anything.
Yeah, so it occurred to me.
Well, maybe they will be listening to someone.
And then part 2 of the practice, the pair work practice would be, are they good headlines?
Okay.
Like,
The
do
angle
they
cycle, did they indicate what you thought was going to be the notes on?
Yeah. I mean, so like for example,
So they are good.
change and stop cancer.
So we're combining the
Yeah, they're going to stop.
You're not treating the ingredient is
Right. So you definitely advocate for that.
Labeling the agriculture. So they're listening. What's the
whole class just say
That was her. That was her. They should win an award. I'm going into that no time marketing. Feedback from Josh. Like, I don't know if we're not sure this in this class.
I think.
Did you want the anger management thing to look at? Or are you guys good?
We have that much time?
We're almost done. Yeah. Okay.
I think this can be part of the free. I mean, if for this time it's what we're doing, but I feel like that's a good idea for free here because this is what we're checking.
Yeah, I mean, the information.
Excuse me, guys. I'm going to bring you together here for just a second. So we're going to, I'm going to give you a few more minutes to work on this, but I want to take a little bit of a dive into the post activities. We talked about during activities, but I want to do a little bit with post activities. Can everybody look at page 33? So you'll see here that there are some questions, just like we did with the during activities. And the idea is we're gonna take a minute, think about these questions, and then we'll go back. We'll look at some tips, and then we'll kind of go back and see if there's anything you might want to change about your post. So the questions here, again, we'll just take a couple minutes just to think. How can a pair work check help students after listening and reading? We've talked about that a bit. What are ways of making pair work checks productive? So like, do students talk much? Or is it like B, finished, right? How can I be sure that all students got the correct answers or correct information in the post, right? Like, so they all did the during. Do I have to collect them all and grade them all? Like, what are ways of making whole class checks meaningful? Okay. This is the problem of, okay, what do you think the answer is, true or false? And then I say, yeah, Selena, what do you think? No, it's anybody else? Right? Like, it's so fake, kind of like, and then number 5, what types of questions or tasks can help students work with the ideas in the text? Okay. So kind of, really discussing something. So I'll give you a minute. Take a look, think for a second, and when you're ready, please skim pages 34 and 35 and do put some stars and question marks.
Oh, I was saying that I like your idea of holding off on it and just going into like the.
Yeah, hold off on this for just one sec and do page 34 and 35, and then you can come back. I'll give you a couple more minutes. See if anything jumps out at there as like useful for you.
Students more individual.
fail-safe because somebody says, yeah, I can answer and not have, but and you might not catch everybody, and not everyone might raise their hand and say, yeah, I need to go to Jesus, but I think that would be one simple way to see if everyone got their answers is something like that.
Well, I can more easily come up with a post-activity than any of those. Like, which of these solutions do you think pair discussion? Why? What are you going to do? That's after we haven't even figured out how we're presenting it.
Yeah.
But, you know, to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And,
providing different scenarios and seeing how they would react.
I'm also thinking that it's okay to leave the true-false questions unanswered because we can put them on the board and make sure everybody that begins the conversation.
Yeah, I don't know if these slides would be helpful.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of, it's like definitions, and this seems a bit more, I don't know, like there are more real answers. Yeah, it's new, and it's you can really get that, and it's a diagram, whereas this is like, in fact, da 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 da. And it's like, yeah.
And this is these are the mechanics of our which is much more interesting. And the lecturer can want to incorporate some of these things.
Finding a way to kind of assure that.
Well, no, because actually almost all the stuff, like ignoring anger will make it go away. That will be brought up in the remedies.
Yeah, and it says this anyways, as we're going to discuss this later on.
Yeah.
So it's like, all
So
right,
let's just get rid of
about it right now.
Yeah, so we don't show these slides or really deal with the material other than as a source of questions.
Stir the pot.
Yeah. So that'll
There's only one other
we then do this. So we do the cycle. The during task is that they fill in the cycle.
Yeah, and then they can even
make
like,
notes.
yeah.
They make then notes.
Right. So then, yeah.
And the then notes can be they could also annotate it with experiences of their own.
Right, because for each they give examples of each of these, so they can provide 2 or 3 examples of each part of the anger cycle.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's go back to our thing here.
Does anybody feel like describing clean what we've got?
Sure. So
I think we're at
the first thing is establishing context.
Just because you know you're in the matrix.
The whole class.
Wait, now that I know that I'm in the matrix.
Students.
Okay, guys. So let me bring you guys together here. You're not expected to have a complete lesson plan. It was a chance to, sort of brainstorm and go through the process of outlining it. And hopefully that helped you internalize some of the steps. What I'd like to do now is we'll do a little, what we call jigsaw activity. So we've had 3 different groups working on 3 different lessons. So we're going to have, we'll get together and briefly describe what your topic and text were and what the basic PDP was. Okay? So, for example, if I said, okay, my topic was hometown, the text was about the Lawrence Hall of Science, UC Berkeley, and the Gourmet Ghetto, these 3 things in Berkeley. The basic PDP was I showed a map, and then like that. Okay? So this is not, don't read through your whole plan. You're not going to have time. Just tell them like the basic, what was the basic pre, what was the basic during task, what was the basic post. Okay? And so Just for ease of getting people together, I'll count you off. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
1,
2, 4.
1,
2, 3.
Good. Ones, raise your hand. See your group? Good. Twos? Good. Threes? And fours? Great. And if we could regroup back at this table, so I'll have the ones here, twos here, threes here, and fours here, please. What you do is any part that's missing, you say, well, Erica was supposed to do this part, but she didn't finish.
I'll take the blame.
I'll bring you around on this side if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Here you go. Twos are over here, and threes are over, or sorry, ones are over here. Here's another chair. You're welcome. Oh, I have one more anger management. Does anybody need one of these?
What is it?
Okay. If you want, you can pass it back and forth. No, I only have 3 of them. I only have 3, so. Yeah. Okay. Guys, 6 minutes. So it's 2 minutes each. 6 minutes, 2 minutes each.
Everybody knows a little bit about that. So my class was established obviously with some images, situations that so they can get you thinking about it. And then there is activated prior knowledge based on questions. For example, yeah. So they would do that as a solo or a handout. They don't actually go over. Then they would turn and share. Then we would not revisit it yet. Then to focus on objectives. So today, obviously, we're going to talk about anger. What does it feel like? How are we going to manage it? And then so that's the objectives. Then the preview task would probably be. We stumbled a lot, and we didn't stumble. We just had lots of ideas. So we didn't actually see the first decision, but I think we would, as a preview, they would look at this. This is like great, and just kind of like think about it and say guess about it, and have your partners think about it. And then the during task would be to fill it out and to give 2 or 3 examples for each cycle. And then extend it out to a whole class, and then we didn't really. This is just the first part of it, so we didn't actually get to the big meat of the what to do about anger yet. It's just the anger stuff.
I can go about ours. We talked about green cleaning products. And so our step 1 to establish context, we thought we would have like 2 products out as a whole class and try and list the differences between the 2 products, one being a green cleaning product and one not. And then to activate prior knowledge, students would work solo and list out what they know about green cleaning products and or what they are and what they're not. Sorry, what their experiences are with green cleaning products. Then they'd share them with a partner. Then the teacher would write out the objective and explain to the class, which is students will be able to define green cleaning products, identify the benefits, and list tips on how to use them effectively. Then to preview the task, we'd have a graphic organizer. Students would take guesses.
The next thing is to have them in pairs talk about their experience with green cleaning products. So they just talk about that, and then we just share whole class. Then we would write out the objectives on the graphic organizer of the videos. This was the video was the main part. So we'd have 4 circles with the topics in the circles. Those are the main points of it. So we start out with that. Then they would watch, or they would guess kind of what do they think they're going to hear. on the graphic organizer. Then we would show the video. As the video is playing, the main points that they would have to do is like, what is green cleaning? What are the benefits? What are some tips for using them? And what are some safety precautions or materials you have to wear? So they could write that down on the graphic organizer. Then they.
But before they even do that, just kind of preview it.
Cool. Yeah, I can go. So ours was the text was a little short video, 3-minute video on green cleaning.
About 3 more minutes. Make sure that you're finishing up the second person and moving to the third.
So it's just an introduction to green cleaning, and it talked about some of the tips that, about what makes green cleaning an advantage. So in our lesson, we were going to begin by having them talk about where they've heard the term, what do they know about it already. Just very short little class discussion. You would expect them to say things like, the office or school or whatever. It's where they would have heard of us to establish that context. And then they would work in pairs to talk about what they know about green products and what sort of maybe, because most of them would be cleaners themselves.
Task here. So we broke it down into several different things rather than one big task. So basically it gave us the 4 different headlines and then little stories that went with it. So there's no like establishing context. There's nothing here. It's like, okay, let's read the articles, read the headlines, and what words don't you understand. So we established we actually have what we called the Grand Prix because we have other little prix in here, but to establish context. So how do you get your news? Then maybe some pair work, talk about where you got your latest news in a newspaper, maybe actually bring in a newspaper as part of the established context. Then focus on objectives. Okay, so you're going to listen to an article. And basically put the headlines in order. So that was the first task. All right, so match the story to the headlines. So there were 2 for each. So they had to match the sentences with the correct. So that was solo work. Then they checked the answers with the partner. Reviewed as a whole class. So I'm sorry. First they put them in order. Then we did this task
so like
here.
the first task.
Right.
Pair work, whole class check.
Mm-hmm.
And then
a second
task.
Right.
Pair work, whole class.
Exactly. Information connected to the headlines. And then so how well how was the information connected to the headlines? Because some of them really, the headlines, do you think they were good headlines? Did they actually tell the story of, tea can stop cancer? Is that really accurate? Do you think that was a good headline for that? Yeah, so. Tea, if you read it, it's actually cream. So we were thinking, based on the headline, you think you'd want to drink it too.
All right. So, I'm going to give you the plans that we came up with, and honestly, I think some of your ideas were more creative, but it gives you a sense of a different way of doing it, or maybe there's some things that are the same. In each case, there are 3 pages, so I would suggest going to the page that was your lesson, and you'll see the first thing is an analysis of the materials that were there, what might be missing, and then what might need adjusting. And then on the flip, there's the actual outline for the plan. So again, have a look through, and if there was anything that that's what we did. We did the same thing. You could put an S for similar, or if there's anything that you're like, that's cool, I hadn't thought of that, you could put a star. Or if you're like, I don't know what they were thinking with this one, then put a question mark. Okay, so what's S again? Right. And then star would be something that you thought was cool. Cool. There we go. Excellent comprehension checker. All right. Last thing. Do you need to read all of them?
No, just the one.
Yeah. Find yours. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Could you show me with your fingers if you need 1 more minute, 2 more minutes, or 0? Okay, so let's take 1 more minute. Okay, so with the person next to you, I'd like to take a minute and I'd like you to talk a little bit about, you can talk a little bit about, how your plans were similar or different, but also I'd really like you to focus in on what parts, this was our workshop for today, and I'd like you to focus in on which parts of the workshop were most useful for you, or what are you kind of taking away from this. So we did our warm-up. We did the PDP review with the cards. We did the mini lessons about your hometown. And then we looked at during tasks. We planned, did the planning. And then we worked on the post tasks to kind of do a little bit of revision. So like for you, what were some of the more valuable things for you and that you got from today's session? So if you want to just work with, why don't we partner up so I can have you two together, and then Matt, you two can be together, two, and two. Dale, I might bring you around if you don't mind. Oh, okay. Thanks. Maybe just swing around because we're going to come back together as a whole group, if you don't mind. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
And it was, I think, very much an accessible.
I stutter a lot, and it's really hard for me to do that. Like when I'm like excited for something, I just stutter.
Hometown. Do it. This really gives you the full. So fast too. Just like 10 minutes, you know. And everybody does it. Yeah. It's kind of the content's pretty interesting because you're talking about your hometown. Everybody's kind of keen about that. Yeah. I actually came up with this in January because I was working one-on-one with a teacher for 1 week. It was a LIUNA instructor, and he could not get PDP. He just could not get it. And I'm like, all right, that's it. We're just going to do one. And I made this up on the fly. Yeah, and I made up this little hometown thing. And like I was like drilling him. I'm like, establish context. What's next? You know, it's like total boot camp. And then he got it. And I'm like, ooh, this is pretty good. This might work, you know. And you get all the steps, and they kind of they experience it as a learner. They do it as a teacher. Yeah, I was pretty happy. Yeah.
Because I missed the welcome back, I didn't really have a sense for how all the frameworks work together. Like I saw the mini training like build it, all those things. Think Fair Share Big results were because there's a lot of material that we want these teachers to be able to be living. So
yeah, and you even got to see a little RFP with the elbow coin catch.
Yeah.
Cool. So I know some of you are kind of like switching into analysis, thinking about the session. But I also want to just take a minute, close out this part about in terms of what was valuable, like in terms of learning about PDP, and especially about during tasks and post tasks. Then we'll take a break and come back and really analyze the session so that you feel comfortable delivering it yourself. But any thoughts about particularly during tasks or post tasks that were especially valuable for you?
I mean, just seeing a list of all the different ways that you can do it during the task.
Yeah.
Oh, I do these during the task all the time, and I'm always doing a who, what, when, and where. What can I do to kind of spice things up a little bit?
Yeah.
Students aren't bored.
Yeah.
There needs to be a nice balance between, having a set kind of strategy comfortable in, but at the same time keeping it fresh so that they don't get bored.
Yeah. That balance between routine and novelty. Because sometimes the routine is so helpful for the teacher and the students, but then a little novelty. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
It takes more precision and planning than, I had taken it. I get the general idea, but then actually
the nitty-gritty.
Really, the nitty-gritty really takes time and needs to be on paper, for me at any rate, to make sure I do it.
Which particular nitties were?
Gritty.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, in the pre, the sort of order of establishing context, and then the prior knowledge, and then the preview. I tend to lump them together.
Right.
And I think one size fits all for that. And you've got us thinking about it much more precisely.
Yeah, kind of granular. Yeah. One thing to keep in mind is I generally think that order works well. Establish context, activate prior knowledge, focus on objectives, preview the task. But as you can see, it depends a little bit on the text and something. There's a little bit of flexibility there. But I think the main thing that we want to work on is that, all right, today we're talking about green cleaning. What do you know? And 1 minute of this sort of the guy who already knows everything about green cleaning says something and everybody else is still thinking about macadamia nuts. That was random. But that, you know what I mean? It's how do you really get everybody involved and everybody really thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Other thoughts about during tasks, post tasks?
I think kind of similar to Margot, understanding the definition is different than using it and trying to really go through it and to link them so it feels like there's a through line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some conversation over here about just that, right? How it's not just about pointing out, this was good, but you're missing this, right? But really, and so what you've been saying all along, it's not going to go from here to here. When we get them here, we're doing good, right? So it's multiple conversations and maybe getting instructed, getting comfortable with pre and what that means and what that looks like, and getting them to a proficient place there before taking them to the next, which may also have another pre. So just getting them piecemealing it so that it's not so overwhelming.
Right. Yeah, I definitely can. I think there are elements of today's session that you could use. I'm talking to you as observers now. That you could use at different points, but this session is for people who sort of have already kind of bought into the to the pre, during, post. They're trying stuff out a little bit, but they're not. It's that how do you really tighten it up? This, I don't think this would be a great session to do with somebody who was just fresh. I would do that solo pair work because that's the kind of tweak thing, right? Just where could you add a little solo pair work? This is pretty granular. All these different tasks and stuff, which could totally overwhelm a relatively novice teacher. So this is for somebody who's bought into the PDP, and they're on their way to trying it. They've gotten some twos there, but they're anything. I think one of the things for me in writing these materials that really struck me was we've sort of did the pair work chant, pair work, get pair work. But I think one of the things that's really important is to think about when pair work is mechanical. And if you force pair work and it's mechanical, it's just it's awful. It's so awful. What's the answer? B. What do you think? B. Okay. And it's just and you do a few mechanical pair works, and all of a sudden the students are if you make me talk to this guy and say B one more time, you know. So it's how do you make pair work meaningful? And sometimes you skip the pair work because, you know, like if you're doing futures, that book, I took a long time looking at that book, and it's literally like, John's a carpenter. Yeah. How do you know? Because I heard him say carpenter. That's it. You know, if you want to have the pair work checks with futures, you know what? You need to change those tasks, because the futures tasks as they are do not lend themselves to pair work. It could be like, play it. Did you catch what John does? What John is? No? Play it one more time. Now did you catch it? That might be a way to do it, you know. But, you know, keep focused on the student learning. So that's my one hesitation, is just be careful, because you don't want to sort of slavishly follow this now because, you know, Josh told me to. You know, that you got to keep your focus on what's helping students and keep thinking about, like, what kind of task is going to work, how do you establish contact. You know that all needs to be there, but the details can vary a lot. So this is sort of the end of the workshop part, and we've kind of gone through all this. I would say that we spent probably total about 3 hours and 15, maybe. Because I had you do the jigsaw. The jigsaw is sort of optional, but you know there may be places where you need to kind of cut or adjust, which you always do when you're doing your workshops. But hopefully it gives you a lot of materials to work with. So why don't we take a break here for about 10 minutes. We'll come back at 3:45, and then we'll get into analyzing these plans a bit. Sound good? All right.